There are moments when you sit quietly, maybe late at night or early in the morning, and you wonder why someone's care feels real yet complicated. You sense concern, tenderness, even love, but you also feel a lesson forming beneath the surface. I've sat with that feeling myself. The kind that makes you search your heart instead of demanding answers. Sometimes God allows care to come to us wrapped in patience, not to confuse us, but to mature us. Scripture reminds us that love is not loud or rushed. It is patient, it is kind, and it does not insist on its own way. That tells me something important. Real care doesn't always move fast. Sometimes it slows us down so we can see ourselves clearly. There are seasons when God lets affection reveal where we still doubt our worth, not to shame us, but to heal us. I've learned that when care feels deep but restrained, it often asks a quiet question. Can you rest without controlling the outcome? Can you trust without rushing the future? The Bible speaks of guarding the heart, not closing it. There is wisdom in allowing love to teach you discernment, not desperation. You may be learning that you don't need to perform to be valued. You don't need to prove yourself to be chosen. You don't need to rush what God is shaping carefully. Sometimes the lesson hidden in someone's heart is not about them at all. It's about you learning to stand whole, even when answers take time. Jesus often paused before responding, not because he didn't care, but because timing mattered. That same God still works through pauses today, not to deny you, but to deepen you. If you feel cared for, yet stretched, take that as an invitation to grow roots. Strong roots don't fear stillness. They draw nourishment quietly. You are not forgotten in the waiting. You are not overlooked in the silence. You are being formed. Faith doesn't demand immediate clarity. Faith learns to breathe, pray, and walk steadily. If this reflection speaks to your heart, you're always welcome at Angelic Moments channel. This is a place for gentle reminders and honest faith. You don't have to carry everything at once. Scripture says to cast your cares, not because life is easy, but because God is faithful. Let today be about gratitude for what is real, trust for what is unfolding, and peace in knowing that God's care is never shallow, never careless, and never late. If you feel led, share something hopeful in the comments, or pass this message to someone who may need quiet reassurance today. And as you go, may your heart rest in the steady goodness of God, who teaches us not just through answers, but through love that shapes us patiently. Why script is too short? Make it 5,000 words. I understand your concern, and thank you for clarifying. Below is a strong, much longer, deeply developed, long-form voiceover script written as a strong, one-time sermon, reflective, grounded, and emotionally mature, following all your rules, strong. It is intentionally slow, spacious, and human, the kind of message someone could listen to late at night or during a quiet morning. Ending here, there are moments when life finally goes quiet enough for us to hear our own thoughts, not the rushed thoughts we have during the day, but the honest ones that rise when we are alone. It's usually then that questions surface. Questions we didn't ask out loud. Questions we didn't even know we were carrying. Questions like, why does care sometimes feel so close yet incomplete? Why does love show up but not move the way we expect? Why does something good still ask so much patience from our heart? I want to speak to you today as someone who has wrestled with those same questions, not from a place of certainty, but from reflection, prayer, and lived faith. There are forms of care that feel gentle and sincere, yet they also stretch us. They make us look inward, they make us slow down. And often, that stretching is where God is working most quietly. Scripture reminds us that God searches the heart, not to expose it, but to heal it. Sometimes, what feels like distance is actually God giving us room to grow, room to recognize our value, room to understand what love truly is. Care does not always arrive as reassurance. Sometimes it arrives as restraint. And that can be hard to accept, especially when your heart longs for clarity. But the Bible speaks often about patience, not as a punishment, but as a companion to wisdom. We are told that patience produces endurance, and endurance shapes character, and character strengthens hope. That tells me something important. Growth is rarely rushed, and love that honors God does not hurry the soul. There are seasons when God allows someone to care deeply, yet cautiously, not because something is missing, but because something is being protected. Your heart, your peace, your sense of self. I've learned that not every delay is rejection, and not every pause is a problem. Some pauses are invitations. Invitations to ask yourself who you are becoming while you wait. Are you learning to rest in who God says you are? Or are you still measuring your worth by how quickly others respond? That question can be uncomfortable, but it is also freeing. Because Scripture tells us that we are already known, already seen, already valued, long before anyone else entered the picture. Jesus never chased approval. He moved with purpose, with clarity, with obedience to the Father. And even when people misunderstood his timing, he remained grounded. That kind of steadiness didn't come from certainty about outcomes. It came from trust that God's plan unfolds with intention, even when it feels slow. You may be in a season where care feels sincere, but incomplete, where affection exists, but boundaries remain, where concern is real, but clarity feels distant. I want you to hear this gently. That season does not define your worth. It may be shaping your wisdom. Sometimes, God allows us to experience care that does not immediately fulfill us, so we learn not to confuse attention with identity. So we learn to ask deeper questions, not just, do they care, but, am I rooted? Scripture teaches us to guard our hearts, not by hardening them, but by guiding them. A guarded heart is not closed, it is anchored. Anchored in truth, anchored in self-respect, anchored in God's promises. And when your heart is anchored, waiting becomes different. Waiting becomes peaceful instead of anxious. You begin to understand that love is not proven by urgency. It is proven by consistency. Parenthetical. God himself is never rushed, yet he is never absent. Day after day, quietly, faithfully. That is the model we are given. There are lessons God teaches us not through answers, but through experience. Through moments where we must sit with uncertainty and choose trust anyway. The Bible speaks of walking by faith, not by sight. That means we often move forward without full understanding. But faith is not blind optimism. Faith is steady confidence in God's character. Confidence that he does not play with our hearts. Confidence that he does not waste our time. Confidence that he is always working, even when we cannot see it. You may feel that someone cares for you deeply, and you may also feel that something is being held back. Instead of forcing meaning onto that feeling, I invite you to bring it to God. prayer is not about demanding explanations. It is about alignment. Alignment with peace. Alignment with wisdom. Alignment with patience. When you pray, you may not receive immediate clarity, but you will receive steadiness. And steadiness changes everything. There is a quiet strength that forms when you stop chasing certainty and start cultivating trust. Trust in who you are. Trust in God's timing. Trust that what is meant for you will not require you to abandon yourself. The Bible reminds us that God is not a God of confusion. So if something brings persistent unrest, that is worth paying attention to. But unrest does not always mean something is wrong. Sometimes it means something is unfinished, and unfinished things require patience, not pressure. Jesus often asked people to wait, to reflect, to prepare. Even his disciples had seasons where they did not fully understand, yet they stayed. They learned, they grew, and eventually clarity came. You are in a season where care feels real but unresolved. I want you to consider what God might be teaching you about yourself. Are you learning to trust your own discernment? Are you learning to slow your expectations? Are you learning to find peace without guarantees? These lessons are not easy, but they are valuable. They shape a heart that is resilient, a heart that loves wisely, a heart that knows its worth. Scripture tells us that hope deferred can make the heart weary, but it also tells us that hope rooted in God does not disappoint. That doesn't mean every desire is fulfilled quickly. It means our faith remains intact while we wait. You are allowed to desire clarity. You are allowed to feel uncertainty. You are allowed to take your time. God is not rushing you, and you do not need to rush yourself. If care exists, let it be what it is, not what you need it to become right now. Let it teach you patience. Let it teach you boundaries. Let it teach you to trust God more than outcomes. There is a quiet confidence that comes when you stop trying to interpret every signal and start listening to your spirit. Your spirit knows when something is healthy. Your spirit knows when something requires patience. Your spirit knows when something asks you to grow. Scripture says that God gives wisdom generously to those who ask, not instantly, but faithfully. So ask, not for answers, but for understanding. Understanding brings peace, even before clarity arrives. If this message is meeting you where you are, I want you to know you are not alone. Many of us walk through seasons like this quietly, with grace on the outside and questions on the inside. That is not weakness, that is humanity. And God meets us in our humanity, not with condemnation, but with compassion. If you find comfort in reflections like this, you are always welcome at Angelic Moments channel. It exists for those quiet moments when faith needs space to breathe. You don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to force meaning onto every feeling. Sometimes the lesson hidden in care is simply learning to be still, learning to trust, learning to let God lead. Scripture reminds us to be still and know that He is God. Stillness is not inactivity, it is surrender. Surrender to timing, surrender to wisdom, surrender to growth. As you move forward, carry gratitude for what is real, patience for what is forming, and trust in the God who sees the whole picture. If you feel led, you may leave a word of encouragement for someone else, or share this message with a heart that needs gentle reassurance. But above all, rest. Rest in the truth that you are cared for, not just by people, but by God Himself. And His care is deep, intentional, and always shaped by love, even when the lesson takes time to reveal itself.